Hello, today is a new dawn. Astrology, awakening, and the language of the cosmos. That's what we're going to get into today. It's Aries season, and we have new beginnings everywhere. I have a lot to cover, and there are a lot of changes around the world and in our cosmic energy. I've been affected by changes too. So I will let you know how my changes are going to imply and affect you moving forward. My name's Ev, founder of Holistic Healing Astrology. I'm going to show you the natal chart, actually the chart of the season. So it's not the natal chart. I misspoke. Astrologically, the new dawn is right here. It's expressed with Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus. And if you could see here, they have a double trine, actually a trine here between Pluto and Uranus and two sextiles. What does that mean? It just means that there are opportunities with these energies. What kind of opportunities? They're described by the definition and the representation of each planet. But I just want to give you a visual as to this transit. A transit is the ongoing alignments of planets. I'm dealing with the outermost planets here because they're the slowest moving and they have the biggest impact because remember the signs of the beginning signs of Aquarius, Aries, and Gemini. This Uranus will move into Gemini very shortly at the end of this month. So that's where you're going to see this new dawn occurring in your chart, in those three areas in your chart. Plus, we are in the season of Aries, which is a very dynamic season. So I will pivot back and forth and tell you what's going on. But the main focus is, why are we talking about astrology? What does astrology tell you? It doesn't dictate. You're not a victim here. You are the creator of your life. So how do you create your life? It's all with intention. But Aries is all about intention and putting things forward. When you put a seed in the ground, you have the intention that it's going to grow into a plant. So this is a beautiful time to put your seeds in the ground. So let's move on. I'm going to read a little bit to keep me focused, but this is what the big emphasis now is. Pluto in Aquarius, Neptune in Aries, and Uranus in Taurus, and it will move into Gemini. And in July, we're going to have Pluto 4 degrees Aquarius, Neptune will be 4 degrees Aries, and Uranus will be 4 degrees Gemini. That's a big deal. So a new dawn is created when there's an end. And most people go to astrologers and psychics for validation, to see the future, and for personal development. During this time of change that I'm talking about here, permanent, which is Pluto, and unexpected, the world and you individually can benefit from understanding the metaphysical components. I specialize in astrology and communication with the unseen world. Moving forward, I will focus on teaching and sharing what I find important and relevant. You will learn what the different types of astrology are and how to use them. If you don't believe in astrology, that's okay. Belief is personal and timing is everything. Convincing someone who doesn't believe is exhausting and egotistical. I am a scientist at heart and trained in medical laboratory science. As I understood that astrology is real, I devoted my life to figure out how it works and how you can benefit from it. What happened that changed the astrology world with the onset of a personal computer? Astrology chart creation became accessible to everyone who had a computer or access to the internet. Astrology chart creation became accessible to everyone, and millions of you went online and got your own astrology natal chart, plugged in the birth time, date, and place, and voila, a natal chart is created. Now, when I started studying astrology many years ago, if you wanted a natal chart, you went to an astrologer or figured out the planetary placements using an ephemeris and a slide rule. And I will show you the ephemeris, and then I won't show you the math because you'll all fall asleep or keep scrolling and never come back again. So it was before calculators and computers, and it was a grueling task to cast just one natal chart. The ease of calculations for the natal chart is accomplished, but the decoding is not that easy. It takes the human brain, intellect, logic, experience, wisdom that Google and AI don't have. So those of you who have had readings with me, you know that I teach as I go, and I'll explain to you how I come up with the translation and the interpretation, and it's very interactive. I always provide clarity and profound insights that the planets share. You may ask, how do the planets speak to us? Well, this Piscean transition to Aries season hit me between the eyes. I literally isolated and spent lots of time with the Creator or God. This was not planned for me. I allowed the information to flow to me, and many things happen. But I'm going to get through my thoughts and then I'll get into the details. I have shared with you my revelation, but each natal chart and its interpretation is a dialogue between you and God, period. How does that help you? If you know what the energies and frequencies are at this time, by knowing where the planets are aligned, then you can compare the placements to your own natal chart. So you simply look for these positions in your natal chart, and then you could see where is it affecting your 6th house, your 8th house, your 10th house. And the first thing you do is you find the sign in your natal chart. Okay? If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. I'll get back to you. So let's examine the current planetary alignments, which change continuously at varying speeds. Astrologers use transits to forecast energies emitting from the cosmos, much like genetic or computer coding. The best way to utilize forecasts for your personal use is to understand the long-term and most powerful energies of the year and months ahead. And these are what I isolated right now. But as we move forward, this very powerful, dynamic, busy month of April. It will calm down in May, but then July is going to be another powerful month. But we'll reflect on what already happened April 1st, okay? I don't want to get ahead of myself. So especially now during one of the busiest cosmic formations, creating unprecedented times. The mantra for the next decade will be never before. And we started April Fools. It wasn't an April Fool's joke, but never before did we launch Artemis 2 to go out to the furthest mileage and a little past the moon, not to land on the moon, but to examine it and then figure out where on the moon we will set up the next launch pad or pit stop for the next planet, which will probably be Mars and future planets. Never before. And we'll be hearing that. This is a renaissance of innovation that we in modern history have not seen ever. Never before. So maybe we should count how many times we say this and how many times you catch other people saying never before. Okay? Now, what humans could only imagine is now becoming a reality. The truth is being revealed big time, and the awakening is here. And the more and more people that realize the truth, not truth, but the truth, there's a difference. The consciousness raises. And when consciousness raises, everything changes. That's how you have revolutions and awakenings. It's like being in the middle of a hurricane. You know it's coming. You see it's coming. You experience the effects of it. And then you look back at what happened. So we are right now in the middle of this hurricane. We saw it coming when we were talking about the age of Aquarius. And then Pluto, the major transformational planet where it's a permanent change, goes into Aquarius. What is Aquarius exactly? I once read a very old book in the 1930s. It was written that Aquarius symbolism is the blending of the ancient with the future. And how accurate was that? It sticks with me because that's what's going on now. We're bridging the ancient philosophies and understandings from thousands and thousands of years ago to now and the future. So we're creating the future of ancient and modern. Very interesting, never before times. So the next step is with astrology or metaphysics. Look at what you're feeling. You may want to journal to keep track and then look back into your natal chart transit by wheel to see what planets are involved. I don't believe in predicting events. However, I can sure tell you the location of each planet and how they speak to each other. You can incorporate tarot, oracle reading, and dreams and see how they tell you information. So if you meditate, you go out in nature, you have an insight, a thought, you're driving and you want to, you just have an idea, you could jot it down. I recommend that you follow your favorite mundane astrologer, whether it's Pam Gregory, Steve Judd, Rick Levine, Joni Petrie. There's so many of them. I like to stick to the ones that are positive. So I think one of my favorites is Pam Gregory. She doesn't hype it up and get everyone scared and all that because remember quantum physics intention. If you want to manifest, you have to be in alignment with the creator, which is not fear, not doubt, not judgment, once you connect to fear, doubt, and judgment, not only do you slow down your progress, but then you delete your manifestation capabilities. It's like you break the link and then you have to start over. So, is it easy to do? Not for everybody, but you have to be mindful. You have to catch your thoughts. And this time of isolation for me really got me right here because it was like, wait a minute. I was beating myself up for not having the blog out in time, not having my videos out in time. And you know what? It's okay because I had to realize that this is what I need to do. I need to teach. I need to tell people what I already know, share what I've discovered, and not repeat and reinvent the wheel. If you want to listen to the mundane astrologers, that's great. I'm not a mundane astrologer. That means that they look at the group and the world and the effects of the planetary influences on different countries or different country leaders, etc., etc. I'm more interested in how astrology, card readings, metaphysics can help you personally, whether you want to learn it yourself or whether you want a personal reading, and then or maybe you're just curious, how does that work? So I feel like my calling is to help you understand how astrology works. And if I find something fascinating, interesting, I'll share it with you and tell you where I got it from. And that's what my blogs will be about. I will share what I've discovered and pass it on to you. And if you want any other information, just let me know. You know how to contact me. I'm very approachable. Well, each mundane astrologer will forecast or predict for the coming week, month, year. I don't believe in predictions. Forecast is a better word because I could definitely tell you this is not a prediction. This is scientific and it's based on the JPL, which is a Jet Propulsion Laboratory. And for the record, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory works with NASA to place the cosmic bodies in the precise position. So this ephemeris here, if I click on there, you will see a portion of the ephemeris and it's by planets and there's a date. You can see the date over here on the left and the moon, the north node, the Mercury, all the planets, and that's an ephemeris, okay? So that's how it's calculated with GPL technology. Very accurate. This used to take hours to do by hand because you would have to take the ephemeris position and then you'd have to calculate it for where you live. This is automatically calculated for Virginia Beach, which is really precise. Okay? So that's never before where the masses had uh, natal charts in their hand without an astrologer. Never before this time. Okay? So the real prediction is when you set your intention. That's when you can make predictions because intention is 100%. All witchcraft, which is not a bad thing as long as it's used in a good way, but all these intentions are spells. And whether it's you want peace on earth, it doesn't matter because abracadabra, that means the words become reality. And it's true. Our thoughts, our words create our feelings, and then what we feel will either be towards God, connected to God, or away from God. And biblically, evil is the separation of human with God. So anything that separates you from source is considered evil or a sin. That's the church rendition. However, the easiest way to have lack is to not believe in the Creator and not believe in nature, because listen to me, right now with pollen, there's no lack. There's never any lack in nature. Weeds, abundant. Pollen, abundant. One tomato, last year I got so many volunteers, I left a couple of dead tomatoes there, and I have more plants than I could shake a stick at. They just came up this year. Tons of tomatoes, 2 different varieties. And then parsley, it came up. There's no lack in nature, in God. The universe, billions and billions and billions of galaxies. It's just mind-boggling what we're finding out. Never before did we understand the expansiveness of the cosmos, the universe. We're just starting to understand, and we can't even wrap around infinite, but that's what the Creator is, infinite. How can a finite being, which we have a beginning and an end, how can we understand infinite, no beginning, no end? That's Pisces, Neptune, 12th house energy. Okay? But that's the soul. And that's what created your natal chart, the soul, which is a spark, a little part of the Creator. So it's a very complex situation here. And the biggest frustration is when an astrologer is on a time crunch because of people's attention span to get the information out there in so many minutes or seconds. It's impossible. What we need to do now is expand our mind and our attention span so we could get a good grasp of what really is astrology. And whenever you hear anything general like which sign is the most intelligent, that's not astrology. All astrology is very precise and individual, complex, and very deep. So what I'm showing you is astrology, the way it was used in the beginning for thousands of years. And now we have the ability to cast the chart very quickly, but we don't have the ability yet to comprehend it. Very shortly, astrology will be mainstream. It'll be taught in schools. All beauticians, all professions will know astrology to better serve the community. That's just the way it's going to be. It's a vision that I have. So let's get back to intention. If you are focused on negativity, oh, there's not enough, oh my gosh, they're laying off jobs, whatever it could be, whether you heard it on the news or your neighbor talked about it, these apps next door, Facebook, it doesn't matter. If it's not positive, if it's negative, if it's making you feel down, guess what? You're going to attract that kind of energy to you because you set the intention. But you could use that conversely and intend on wonderful stuff happening, wonderful things coming your way, and love, peace, harmony, abundance. That's what you're going to get because that's what you believe. Belief has everything to do with it. And then allowing it. You have to allow it. You have to believe it. And this is where the news and the powers that be control us. They instill fear They get you all hyped up. They tell you gas is going to be so high you won't be able to drive. Um, all this bad stuff is going to happen to get everyone all riled up. There's that clickbait. They show a picture of, people screaming and stuff. And you have to resist because once you get engaged to that negative energy, you create a resistance to the creator and to all that abundance. So if you're wondering why things aren't coming to you as fast as you want, it's because you have resistance. You have to find where the resistance is. And I'm very guilty of this myself with my negative thoughts, judgment, and anger. And it's work to make the changes and catch my thoughts and feelings. However, if you go back to the natal chart, if every other sign, so it's positive, negative, optimistic, pessimistic, why are some people more pessimistic than others? If we all have equal signs in optimistic and pessimistic signs, right? Well, it's because of where the placements are. Are they on the angles, these pessimistic signs? And are there planets in those pessimistic signs? That's a clue on how you could read your own astrology chart. It's never one thing. You have to look at the whole thing, the big picture. So here comes the juicy part. The first 15 days of April, and I'm sorry I'm late, but this is a powerful reset where you could connect straight to source and put your intentions like seeds and let it sprout. Let it come into a full grown plant. Just think, a little tiny seed this big creates a huge 15-foot sunflower plant. It feeds all the birds and it looks beautiful in the corner of your property. And that's nature, and that's what we want to be connected to. So any intentions or visualizations you project will be fully connected to God. Think of it as a direct line of communication on full blast. Imagine God is speaking to you through the planets. Just think about that. Last week, April 1st, it's a powerful full moon. The Artemis 2 spaceship is launched on a never before mission to gather data for the future space agendas using the moon as a pit stop to other planets, starting probably with Mars. Yes, I could hear the Star Trek music playing in my head. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before. Well, here it is. We are now in the Star Trek season of humanity. It's become a reality. Okay? Now, don't start telling me about the negative because, listen, everywhere there's negative and positive. But what you focus on is what you're going to get. So if you focus on blue ink and you're using blue ink, that's what you're going to get. Blue ink. There's going to be no red ink. Not if you don't use the red ink because you're only dealing with blue ink pens. Okay? Now let's look at the planetary alignments long term, and we just did. And I've been talking about these forever, but hindsight is always 2020. So we've been looking at it since the age of Aquarius, which is 2,500 years. And again, I'm repeating, Pluto in Aquarius, which was the beginning of the COVID. Now, how did that change our world? Never before. the whole planet shut down. A lot was going on. I really expected a lot more death. Yes, there was death in pinpoint pockets around the globe. Um, and that's a whole nother subject. But it could have been a lot worse. A lot worse. Okay? So the study of planets that affect a large group of people or countries is a branch of astrology we call mundane astrology. And I use Western astrology. Joni Patry uses Vedic astrology. But really, it's the signs are different, but what's really important are the planets and how they speak to one another because they are the loudest. The planets are the action figures. The signs are the coats or the uniforms that they're wearing. So I like to focus on the individual impact of the transits, and that's what I spoke to before. However, the world changes do impact us individually. For example, the last time we had the space program, that produced all this innovative technology in medicine, in finance, with computers, education, food, and how we produce food, the whole gamut. That was all from the technology of the space program, making, using computers and stuff. And then all of a sudden, we all have personal computers. And now we all have these devices where they're not. I got rid of my big clunky camera because I got a camera on this. I don't need a calculator. It's here. I don't need a word processor, typewriter. It's everything is here. And pretty soon, we're going to have robots. And did you see the robot? It was on the Sean Ryan show. Um, he had a robot there, and the guy that built the robot, he's been making it for 5 years. And I believe it even was presented at the White House with all the, not all, but many of the first ladies that met with the First Lady Melania Trump here. And so you could see what is it going to do? A bunch of housework. Let me tell you, I'm all in on this. I want someone that can make the beds and do the dusting around here, the heavy lifting, because it's exhausting sometimes. All right. But that's coming. And imagine you have gardeners that are robots. Now, wait a minute. I could hear you. But all these people are going to lose jobs. Well, good. You know what? When they invented the cotton gin, right? I don't know if you remember this, but this was back in history. Before they had the cotton gin, we had manual labor. And they were mainly slaves, to tell you the truth. And they had to pick the cotton seeds out of the cotton ball. Very tedious. Okay? This cotton gin machine alleviated all that drudgery and they used the machines. So now people could do other more important things to use their minds and not manual labor. That's just one example, but it goes on and on. So, yes, there's going to be a shifting of jobs. Is AI going to take over all these jobs? Maybe. All the jobs that can be replaced by AI. I have to admit, I use AI for many different things. It's to correct grammar, spelling, and just even for artwork, okay? And that's just one component. But if you're going to focus on the negative aspects of AI, good luck to you. I focus on the positive aspects. How does AI make my world better? I still have to edit everything that comes out of AI. I have to use my intelligence to say, well, that's not true. That is true. Okay. Can Can it be spiritual? I don't think so. It can't handwrite either. I don't think. I heard it can't. Can't read cursive. So we'll see. But the ease of like dishwashers. Before the dishwasher, we had to wash by hand. Before washing machines, we had to wash by hand. Okay? That was the Industrial Revolution. Now we have another revolution. Okay? Innovative. Even medicine. Watch and see what happens with medicine. And I want to remember to tell you about the Sean Ryan show that I saw that changed my life. And that's at the tail end of this written notes here. So, as a reminder, it's time to connect to the Creator, to God. It's time to see the truth, not truth, the truth. And whatever you are ready to explore is at your fingertips. It's a new beginning like never before. As the truth is revealed, the manipulation and deceptions are revealed. Some of my favorite YouTube videos, especially with Sean Ryan's latest episode with Jeremiah Johnston, Johnston. He's an expert on the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Now, if this ruffles your feathers, hang in there. If you're a skeptic, you may want to see this because it took me days to get through it because it was very long. But he shows artifacts, historical artifacts. He talks about the Jet Propulsion Laboratory that's used by NASA that pinpointed when there was the eclipse that turned the sky red, according to the Bible, when Passover was, and all that timing that was supposedly 33 AD, April 5th. That was the resurrection, which is Easter, of Jesus. Okay? He talks a lot about the Shroud of Turin, Turin. My mother was obsessed with it, and she would read it in the Encyclopedia Britannica, and fascinating. But pay attention or just skip to that part, and he will tell you how scientists found that there's no other imaging on anything on the planet, never before, that has this type of like laser imprinting. They're holographic. That blew my mind. And he said the only way that that could happen, and I can't quote it because it's just so mind-boggling, but the numbers that he used, it was like the heat of I don't know how much lightning bolt, but it was when the resurrection occurred, there was such a force of electricity going through the shroud, and even the blood type was on the shroud, which was AB. So there's a lot of scientific evidence of things. And what's puzzling to me is why wouldn't the Vatican put this stuff out there and let it be known to the world? With all the technology that we have, why is one person putting this information out there, and all these other powers that be keep it isolated and quiet and hush hush for thousands of years? It's a wonderful experience. It was riveting, riveting. That was part of my isolation. All this, and the way they timed it, right before Easter, that the public would hear this information, the crucifixion nails, how they were used, the crown of thorns, what were they really like? Very, very interesting, especially if you're a skeptic. So that was a life changer, and it did blow my mind. Now, we can look here, and I will bring up all the other planets so you could see as we move along this month. And just ignore the time here, or the circle, because this is based on the time and the place, Virginia Beach. Okay. So the 1st of April was when we started the month, and you could see here that we had a full moon right here. So the full moon was April 1st, and we have the launch of Artemis 2. And Mars was involved with all this, and you could see all the planets are singing to one another. Then around the 16th of the month, I want you to see that there's just so much going on, and I believe it's the 16th that is the new moon. And we're all, okay, wait. Yeah. So look here. We have a new moon. The sun and the moon are together, but we have all these planets. And there are some fixed stars here too that I don't use, but they're in there as well. Okay? And you'll see new beginnings. New beginnings. Okay? So this is a great time to put all your intentions, April, especially the first 15 days. All right? Check and see where Aries is on your natal chart. And it's really big stuff, because besides all this happening, don't forget what we started with, these 3 big players, and all this Neptune Aries energy is surrounded by the rest of these planets in Aries. Aries, look, Aries, that thrust of the rocket, that's Aries energy. Fire, bold, courage to do such a thing. Those astronauts have to have courage. They can't be wusses, Their bodies are going to take a big toll with anti-gravity and such. There are a lot of risks. You have to be in top shape, but that's their mission. And they're going to do that for us, for the innovations and all this new information that it brings. But, here's Gemini. I mean, Uranus is going into Gemini at the end of the month, but we have Mercury with all this new beginnings, new way of thinking. You could feel it. And put in the comments what you're feeling and how you feel about this whole new dawn. And then you'll see Uranus will go into Gemini. I think around there it goes. And you're going to say, April 26th. Well, how about all these planets like Mars moving into different signs all the time? They move quickly, all right? But every time they change a sign, because Mars moved into Aries, which is the ruler of Aries. Mars and Aries go together in the first house, so it makes it stronger. So we have even stronger energy. But this whole lineup that I showed you prior, with all those planets in Aries, we've never seen that before. Okay? So you notice how many times we're saying never before. And then, of course, uh, Venus went into Taurus. Now, at the end of the month, it's going to go into Gemini. All right. But remember that the faster moving planet approaches the slower moving planet, makes contact, and then moves away from it. So you have to see what's going on in your chart. And then you could play around with, all right, what's happening in your chart? And then you could, or what's happening in your life? And then you could reflect on the chart and say, so, we're going to get hit at the end of the month with these, you know, lots of work, lots of things to balance out. These are the squares and the T-squares. Okay, these are configurations. So it's a volatile, explosive month, Aries, and things will calm down, of course, with Taurus, because Taurus is about, Aries is, look, fire, explosive. It's like a spark. It starts everything. Tremendous energy, independence, courage, forcefulness, weapons, sharp, like a knife, like a razor, propulsion, like a rocket. That's the energy. And I'm not into weapons, guns, war, but if you see what's going on now with the U.S. military, like it or not, they are using Star Wars type of materials. The precision and the way they could pinpoint where these targets are and what they're going to target, it's very destructive, but it's very precise. It's like laser surgery. Nobody likes surgery, but if you need to have surgery, I'd rather have it where it's pinpointed in a small area. Many years ago, they didn't know what was wrong with me. They wanted to do what they called exploratory surgery, which was they cut you from, your chest, the middle of your chest, all the way down, and they open you up and they start digging around to see what's wrong. You think I'm crazy, but that was a reality. So, of course, I said, no, you're not cutting me up to find out what's wrong. The pain will go away. And it did. And 20 years later, it was a little over 20 years, when they did a laparoscopic surgery. They put a scope through my belly button. They found that my appendix was distorted, and maybe I had an appendicitis attack. And I said, that's probably what it was. So I was lucky it didn't rupture. However, thoughts are things, and I go, it'll go away, and it did. So I hope that you enjoyed this long video. I enjoyed making it, but remember that that's my new format. I will be just highlighting what I think is the most important stuff and teaching. And on my TikTok and the other social media like Instagram, I will be putting like vocabulary words and definitions where you could just kind of look and see. But the long explanatory stuff will be continued on YouTube. And then 2 times a month, I'll upload my small videos from TikTok onto YouTube. So I thank you for your time and all your comments. I love you. And until next time, may the force be with you. Bye-bye.